Good morning, y'all. I am Nina Biffinger, principal of Green Means Go. I'm partnering with McWinney to really help elevate the awareness of Baseline and grow their broker outreach. So if you have feedback, if you have questions, if you have suggestions for things that we can do to really help you be successful in this community and in your business, reach out to me, to Pam, to Vanna, who helped check you in. We're here to help you get acquainted with Baseline, understand how to grow your business within this community, and that's why we're here. This is one of the first events. We're super excited to have y'all here to really help you understand about urban development and this community. The map is a great resource to help you find your way around as things move and change. The other thing that I would love to say is that innovation and adaptation are two of the key traits that a real estate broker can have. Whether it is, well, specifically really being adaptable to the changing market conditions like we're seeing right now, being committed to innovate and improve when it's needed. And I would just love to tell y'all congratulations, because being here is really evidence that you are innovative and adaptable. When you are really in this type of market and all the time, keeping up to date with the local or the most recent topics in real estate, your local market, and the things that are available for your clients make you more valuable to our industry and to your clients. So we thank you for being here. Our panel of experts are going to share a lot of insights in all of those categories, and to respect everybody's time, we're going to get through the questions that we have and hope to save some time for you. So save your questions to the end, please, and we will definitely touch on those. Before we dive into the questions, I'm going to give each of them a chance to introduce themselves. So if you each will say your name, company, your role, and then as a fun icebreaker, if you were a fruit, what would you be? I'm kidding. If you could just say, it's good, it's breaking the ice, that's good. We're off to a good start. How about if you say if you are a Colorado native or transplant, and either what has kept you here or drew you to live here?
Hi, I'm Tom Hayden. I'm with Peak Economics. I'm the owner. I've been doing this for about 25 years, walking models and doing economic analysis on new development. I am not a native. I was a military kid growing up, so I'm an adoptive native. I spent my entire adulthood here, so if that's worth it, right?
Good morning, everybody. Kyle Harris. I'm the Senior Vice President of Master Plan Communities for McWinney, and I've been with McWinney since 2016. And I just want to underscore, thank you guys so much for being here. Apologies for the logistical mess trying to get in. We could not have timed that any better, that installation of the pole literally right out the front door here. But in any event, again, appreciate your being here. I am not native to Colorado. But the hook was set just after college. I took a road trip with some buddies in a little Subaru, and we went all over the western U.S., camped out. When they were still doing samples at the grocery store, that's how we lived off of food. And I was like, this place is freaking awesome. And so after grad school, I had the opportunity to move over and work with Hines on resort development up in the mountains. So that's what brought me here. And there's just no way you're pulling me out of Colorado. So.
Subaru is like the state's vehicle, isn't it?
Hi, my name is Mitch Traeger, and I'm an architect and the principal design at Boulder Creek Neighborhoods. I have been in Colorado since I went to grad school. 1991, before some of you were born.
Great. I am Jeff Willis, president and owner of Berkeley Homes, and I'd be a banana. Or wait, we're not answering that. No, I actually grew up in the mountains of northern Arizona, so not too far from Colorado, but have been in Colorado for, God, I guess over 25 years now. And I think my story of coming here is probably similar to a lot of people. My wife and I came up over Labor Day one year, and just, it was fantastic. Lodo was hopping, the Rockies were in town, the Broncos were in town. And on the flight back to Arizona, we started talking about moving up here and said, well, we we owe it to ourselves to come up in the winter and just, see what it's really like. So we came up over New Year's, and I think it was warmer in Denver than Phoenix at the time, and that was sealed the
Sold.
deal. Been here ever since, and have no plans to go anywhere else. So, and I'd like to echo what Kyle said. Really appreciate everybody being here today. I know your time is valuable, so we really do appreciate you being here, and we hope to do business with you. Thanks.
Bless you. I am originally from Texas, moved here over 25 years ago to go to school, go Buffs, and moved away and then came back, so I'm here. Before we also dive into the questions, to help the panelists really know the audience and who we're speaking to, I'm curious, by a show of hands, how many people have been to Baseline before? Okay, that's great. And how many of you have experience selling new home construction? Oh, that's good. Okay. And how many of you have sold a home in Baseline? Yes. Oh, no? Oh, y'all. Wait, it was like was that a trick question? That was so funny. Oh, okay. So experience with some of the builders here. Okay, great. Fantastic. That's helpful. Okay. So first we're going to ask Kyle, as a developer, how do you determine the types of community and homes that you will offer?
There we go. It's an interesting question as it relates to Baseline. And if you'll indulge me, we'll go back in history just a bit. We, McWhinney, purchased this community from Pulte, which was developing Anthem back in 2007, December, just before New Year's, just as everybody was looking into the abyss of the great financial recession. We got a better price that way. Of course, we've sat on it for a long time as well. The point being, though, that there were many entitlements associated with that property, both residential and especially commercial. Broomfield, when we purchased it, said, okay, what we don't want you to do, McWhinney, is what Pulte had continued to do, which is use all of their residential entitlements, but not do any of the commercial. They were concerned that we were going to do the same type of development, march it all the way off to I-25. Said, nope, we're not going to have any of that. So as a result, our zoning document actually precludes us from doing single-family detached. So the home you are sitting in right now, the only reason why we are able to do this is because we went to the city and asked for a variance. And as much of a variance as we're able to get is essentially, I hate the term pull-apart townhome, but we are 6 feet wall to wall from the other homes here, and that's how we were able to get single-family detached as part of the overall portfolio of properties that we offer. So that having been said, so we're working within some constraints. Our goal is to create as much bandwidth of product as we possibly can create within those constraints. So you are going to see a lot of attached product here. You're going to see paired homes. You're going to see townhomes, these separated single-family detached homes. Some will be 2 stories, some are going to be 3 stories, but overall, there is a bias toward high density, and that is what the city's vision has been. We share that vision because we're trying to create something that is ultimately more sustainable and more urban than what is typical in this area. And I think we'll get into some other aspects of it later.
I like that you had said urban place and an otherwise suburban area.
Absolutely. The city's vision for this place has been for Baseline to be an employment center. And when you look at Broomfield, they were looking at an anchor. You have, was it Flatiron Small on one side in that area as one anchor for Broomfield. They're looking at this as their last great opportunity, because Broomfield is not a big place. Their last great opportunity to anchor with a commercial center. And we'll talk about that more in just a moment. As part of our vision, and we share this desire to have higher density within the community, part of this vision has also been, and tell me when I need to shut up, because
Now.
I just wanted to mention, we've always wondered what the millennials we're going to do, and I remember at many ULI discussions about this, are they going to stay in the city or are they going to come to the suburbs? There was raging debate in Urban Land Institute about that. Well, guess what? They came to the suburbs. And so part of the urban nature and the higher density of this place is to give those folks permission to move to the suburbs without feeling as though they have sold their souls. And what that means is that you then need to provide the amenities to the extent possible that you get in a more urban environment, in a suburban environment, with great schools and with an element of safety. And we'll talk a little bit more about Center Street District later.
Yes, thank you. And with that, he had also stressed that he wanted to have a lot of options, different segments. And so for that, I would like to go to Mitch and Jeff to talk about, as a builder, what drew you to build and provide homes in Baseline.
Well, I'll start a little more globally. Berkeley Homes, for those of you that may or may not know us, we've been in business since the mid-'80s in Denver. We're just a Denver metro area builder, privately held company. And we do, plus or minus 100 homes every year, depending on the markets. So we are very, I would say, selective of what we look at, because we can't afford to have, a big national builder that has 100 different projects. And so really what we focus on are two elements: either infill sites where we know there's not much competition, or we look to the premier master plan communities in the market. And over the years, that's been all over the metro area, whether it was Backcountry or Ridgegate and Lone Tree. And we like that because, one, in Baseline in particular, is it provides something much beyond the home we're selling. It's the amenities, it's the center streets, it's the parks, it's the schools, and it also provides a wide range of housing. It's not, the premier master plans, I would say, provide a wide range of housing where not all the builders are competing for 2,200 square foot, 3-bedroom houses. There's a differentiation. And I think when you just sit on this street, you clearly see that. You have townhomes being built right now. You have our homes in 1,700 to 2,200 square feet. And then you get these beautiful homes that Boulder Creek has done that are larger. And so we're not competing against one another. The community is providing a wide range. And that's what really was attracted about Baseline. It started on the west side, and now on Parkside West, it's continuing that. So that was what was really exciting and continues to be for us.
Diversity of offerings, too. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah, and I was instantly attracted to Baseline because it's forward-looking. It's a forward-looking progressive community, and it was the idea to do something different, right? We do have, backing up just a second, we have people that have been living in apartments longer. Housing's less attainable than it was. So they're used to this lifestyle. I see it with my kids. My kids are all in their 20s, and they're living in apartments, and they can spend every single weekend doing some fun activity. So we saw Baseline and said, that's beautiful. You have 170 acres of open space. You can get outside, enjoy Colorado, but you don't have to spend the whole weekend mowing. I raised my kids, incidentally, in a house that we had an acre land. My last water bill was $850. I was very happy to sell that house. It was on the market, so I had to keep it green. But I think it's that lifestyle. It's seeing the market evolve, seeing what people want. People want to be out skiing and hiking, and that's what my family did. They want to be outside enjoying Colorado, and you get as Kyle said, we're in an urban development, so you get all the benefits of that with suburban convenience. So we can walk, get a cup of coffee when the commercial's done. Beautiful open space, amphitheater, all kinds of wonderful amenities, yet you're not tied to doing all that maintenance. So that really attracted to me. And from an architect standpoint, I think what the Baseline developers, what McWhinney did, was brilliant, really, is saying we're going to load all the cars from the back of the house, we're going to pull the houses forward and make this a much friendlier community. Just by doing that, we're providing a lot of abundant open space. Some of our models have 3 stories of open space stacked on the front of that, pulled right up to the street. And because of that, you're just closer to your neighbors, it's just pulling people together. I think it's going to be a great, strong community. I'm very anxious to see how it does evolve.
Connection is a big thing that it brings to the table, yeah.
really
And I
think
think it already has started. I mean, I believe it already has started, that community has. To the point of amenities, it's a great segue. Kyle, why don't you talk a little bit of an introduction to Baseline for those who maybe don't know as much about it, what the amenities and services are available now, and what you're excited to share is coming.
Sure. From an amenity perspective, we started over in the West Village with our pocket parks and our trails. And I should mention, just taking a step back, part of our master planning design ethos of the place is to create a walkable, bikeable, sustainable community. And part of that is creating these pocket parks very deliberately within all aspects of the community. One of our metrics is that we want to make sure that every one of our homes, every one of our residents is no more than 1,200 feet away from a pocket park. So you will see 2 of them over in West Village. There's one that is in the early stages of construction just behind us to the south here, and there are others that are planned within the residential component of the community. Then we're doing something a little different in Parkside West than we did in West Village. We are connecting these parks and we're connecting people's homes by what we're calling gardenways. Gardenways are non-motorized, essentially narrow greenways that homes will front on. They are alley loaded, as was just mentioned, so we keep the car away, but people will be able to go out of their front doors right into non-motorized sidewalkscape, which will be planted with our pollinator district, xeric species. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So that's another element that is happening. So the 2 pocket parks, the first one here is under construction, and then we have another one further to the south. Then, of course, the main event from an open space perspective, and I think I'll just say we appreciate the fact that when you have a high-density urban area and you don't have as much of your own individual yard space, you need to make sure that those spaces that you do provide are well done, and they have to be in existence. And so our first phase of the linear park is the large greenway that sort of bisects the property on the diagonal. Our first phase of that is under construction right now. I just heard on a team meeting that sod is going to be going on for the Great Lawn here before the end of the month. And then we have a subsequent phase of that park, which is going to be just to the east of the Southlands, which is where all that dirt is moving further to the south of where we are right now. That park is going to be constructed over time, and as buildings and development occurs on either side, we start layering in additional amenities such as dog parks and sport courts. So that will come over time. Perhaps the amenity that I'm most excited about, and it's hard to even think about this as an amenity per se, is what we reference as Center Street District. Center Street District is the vertical mixed-use community. It is the there, which is going to be located just to the north of where we are right now. This is in large part what Broomfield had envisioned for this place. Now, has it shifted a bit? When we first started these plans, there was a lot more office in here than there is now. Office not being the most favored nation status of real estate asset classes. But what it is going to have is over 200,000 square feet of retail space. Think heavy on food and beverage, dining, drinking options, as well as home furnishings, soft goods, health, beauty, and fitness. Those are the primary categories that we're looking at from a retail perspective. But then to give it some urbanity and some verticality, we're also having residential, which will exist above the retail in certain areas. And then, if the market tells us, we do have reserved places for office because we would like to get that use in this area as well. So, when you look at surveys of what is most popular, what are people looking for most in a community, Historically, it's been trails and open space. Check, we have that. What is elevated on the list is we also want to walk to coffee. Okay then, well that is while preferably on the trail, and even better if you can bike to coffee. And so that, while on the trail, and so that is what we are going to be providing here, is a place for the whole family to come in, grab dinner. We're really excited about this as the next phase. And from a timing perspective, if all the stars align, which is, that always happens in real estate, right? If all the stars align, we're looking at being able to start breaking ground on the horizontal. That means all the stuff that you bury into the ground in order, before you can even go vertical. That would happen, I would say, late summer of next year.
It's a moving target.
It is indeed.
But there's layers. It's important. We're in the beginning stages of what will be the ultimate, and we'll talk a little bit about the benefit of that in a minute. The next section, Mitch started to speak to it, but I loved how he answered the question about what makes Baseline unique and a good choice for buyers. He started to talk about the homes being forward. And then how else did you describe it? He paints pictures with his words because he's used to drawing pictures.
I don't know.
He had said it was like the jewelry of the street. That's what I loved about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What I was referencing there is that there's not layers and layers of landscaping, so the architecture becomes much more important. It becomes the ornament or the jewelry of the street.
No, that was a good piece on why it's a good choice. It's just unique, and it's diversity, and it's, yes, architecturally appealing, and it's not cookie cutter, and all the things that make it a lovely place
absolutely.
to call home.
This was an absolute architect's dream, to sketch on a project like this that's so forward-looking, that wants to be something different, that wants to live differently. I had a ball with it. This model we're in with a 2-story grand entry. Obviously, it comes from my background. I did a lot of hospitality, golf resorts and things like that. So I wanted kind of that 2-story grand entry. But it really came from the pedestrian plazas and how they were playing off the parks on Center Street?
The new
Park Street.
Peak Street.
Peak Street.
Peak
Okay.
Street.
Peak Street.
And Park Lane.
And Park Lane.
Park Lane, I think
Park
is
Lane
what
is the one I was thinking. That's where this model originally got conceived, because I was thinking all the parks to pedestrian plazas, and it would just kind of flow from the street to the house. Kind of be an extension of that. We have 3 of these houses under contract. Everyone has opted for the second floor full deck because they want to have that continuous extra outdoor space.
Can I add to that? The reference to Park Lane, just for those of you who don't know, another sort of experimentation that we're doing as the master planners, we are putting in what's known as a VUNERF, fancy Dutch term, which means shared community street. And in this instance, we have half the street, which is reserved for vehicular traffic, think 12 miles an hour, literally with lighting to occur in the street itself. You can actually see, if you walk by, what it's going to be looking like. Well, you'll see what it looks like now, but you can see areas where the lighting is going to be installed. The other half of the street is permanently protected as a very skinnier linear park, so it's just for pedestrian use. And so there will be homes on either side of that, and I think that's what Mitch was referencing.
What was the word? VUNERF?
It's a WOONERF, pronounced VUNERF.
So don't say you didn't learn anything today. One thing you can learn. Take away.
Just one other thing I wanted to mention too about the, sorry, you gave me a microphone.
We did practice this.
And that is, I appreciate Mitch's comment on the architecture as the jewelry of the street. You'll see many other communities where developers will sell big chunks to a single builder, and they do their thing in large chunks. We purposely split this out to where in any given street you may have one builder on one side of the street, another on the other side, to try and give architectural interest to the street. Does it make it more difficult for all of us? Yes, it does, but we think it creates a better end story.
100%. I hear buyers and homeowners say it, that they love that it's diverse of architecture and look. Briefly, do you also want to answer the association structure that makes it different and a benefit for the buyer?
So this is a bit unique as well. Some of you may be familiar with DMB Community Life, a big developer focused in the Arizona area, Phoenix. They created what I'd almost call a new technology for associations. They have what we would consider, I call it the boring part. That's the part that does your street sweeping and your snow removal and all that kind of stuff. But they've also layered on another element of the association. It's actually a separate association, and we have the idea is to have homeowner involvement, even more so on that one. That's the fun group. That's the group where through transfer fees, it is funded and community engagement incurs. It's, in this instance, it's called the BECA, the Baseline Engagement and Enrichment Community Assembly. It's a mouthful. The point is, what it does is that it is a structure which creates stakeholders in the neighborhood. It does all the events, and we have events, multiple events, every month of the year to try and get, not only because the homes are close together, but it also helps to create community because it provides that structure for people to really get to know each other. They're having porch parties all the time, events every time of the year, and I think, anyway, we can talk more about that if you're interested, but I think it's a very innovative way to make sure that it's not just the HOA is viewed as this, oh, I just got to pay it because I get the street sweeping. It actually helps to engage the community.
The phrase, nobody puts baby in the corner. I feel like poor Tom has been sitting here waiting to speak. So he's our numbers and stats guy, and he's really here to help talk about the market and trends that you're seeing. So the first piece that I know you want to talk about is really what's the market's perception of higher density and the increased urban living communities. Yes, that's yours now.
Hello. Well, I mean, I think, so I'll get to the graph in a minute, but I think there's recognition that to live in the metro area, right, core, with a new home and a modern development, urban living is what all the development is now, right? That's where we're going. If you're looking at large land supplies, all that is out east. And, you know, with the rising developments of costs, property taxes, insurance, yard maintenance, like we've kind of touched on, you know, the higher density is the trade-off to reduce a lot of that. It's the preference if you want to live closer in. You know, that's the reality. And on the graph here, you know, the numbers bear this out. So what I put together is across Denver, the percentage of new home production last year that were townhomes or duplex was 27% of all new build, right? That compares to 24% in 2019 and only 9% in 2014. There's big changes coming, yeah. For single family detached under a 5,000 square foot lot, it was 22% last year of all production. That compares to 12% in 2019 and 7% in 2014. The market is changing, right? Now, three-story product is growing the most. So about half of all the new townhome starts in all of Denver were three-story last year, right? And half of all the new townhome starts were three-story product.
Why?
Because it's selling, it's what's available, sometimes it's a price point, and because if you want square footage, you can go up. Yep. We will, but that's not included in this figure, no. And then in terms of a single family detached, so the high density single family lots, it's now up to about 22-25% of these small lot communities that are detached.
Thank you. Next, you will answer the question, what is the current demand for high density and urban developments in this area? You touched on it, but please expand.
Yeah, and I think the best way, see, I get to talk a lot now. So on the next exhibit here, the best way to answer this is to start with a look at the Denver market overall, and then then dive into baseline with some stats. So this is a busy graph, but I'll walk you through kind of the highlights of it. This is looking at builder sales office reporting figures through April. This is all of Denver and northern Colorado combined. Now 2024 is the green line, 23 is the blue line, 22 is the red, and 21 is purple. And when I just go around, I'm going to round counterclockwise here. So starting with the green box, the traffic one in the top left, consumer traffic is still pretty low if you look at that line, but it's still where it was a year ago. So I mean, it's at least, it's stabilized. And then when you look at the red bottom left sales one, right, we're above the 2023 level, or at least we were to start the year. And then when the mortgage rates went up, it slowed, right? They run inversely. On the next one, traffic conversion, that's the blue top right. So it's improved again. We're above both 2022 and 2023 levels. Right? So, and I'm going to get to that in the specific one. But what it means is that the people who come in are real, right? They want to buy. And then cancellations is the bottom right in purple. So cancellations, you can see, first of all, you can see, I can never ignore this, you can see how horrible 2022 in the fall was when the rates lifted, right? And what you can see now when you fast forward is that 2024 is back down just under 10%. It's a little much more normalized level. So then when you take the market as a whole, and you go to the next slide, please. So now dissecting baseline year to date. So baseline year to date had a 17.5 conversion rate of traffic to sales contract. Right? The number is not important other than just to see the metrics of where it kind of ranks. But the,
what that means?
right, so comes in the door and then signs a contract. So the market overall was at 10.1. That's the average of across the Denver, Northern Colorado combined rate, right? And this is the highest rate. So baseline has the highest rate across, you know, not the whole Front Range, but exclude Colorado Springs, and that's the highest rate. The next highest one is in Longmont at 12.6. Now the conversion rate, right? It's a huge number.
That's a really big deal.
And so once they come in, you know, I think if they're getting the vision of the community, they're hooked. You know, and that's kind of where I was going, was that the conversion rate, right, it's if you walk through the door, if they're reaching out online, they're very interested, and they are typically buying here. So now when you look at the cancellation rate and you compare these areas, right, the rate is also one of the lowest. The cancellation rate is one of the lowest. So they stick, which translates to who that is as a buyer, right? They're probably a little older, even if they're an entry-level buyer, and they've got great credit scores, and they've got money, and they're being decisive about where they want to live. And the traffic volumes here are healthy compared to other areas at the same price point. So it's comparable like Arvada, Longmont, Erie, Central Park, all around the same figures in terms of traffic. Sales per project is about 10 in baseline. That's second in the area only to Parker, or at about 11.4. The overall market rate was 8.1. So really, when you look at all these numbers and you break this down, the demand is there. It's increasing as more and more buyers become aware of baseline.
The other point is that new home construction is strong and it's filling the gap. We all know that we are short in inventory with resale, and new home construction is what will help us help people have homes, and baseline is doing that, and these numbers prove that as well. That it may seem like 2024 had a little bit of a slow start, but those graphs that he showed overall, it is a strong market. Buyers still want to buy, buyers still have needs, and they are buying in baseline, and they are bringing their friends, and it's just a great community, and that's what those numbers really show. You can come back up here. The next one, Mitch. You had good insights on how our residential housing market is changing to drive this increase in the urban demand that we just talked about.
Yeah, no, what I see is just, as I mentioned before, people are staying longer in rentals, and they're saying, oh, wait, I can have a weekend. I don't need to be like my father was, mowing for 3 hours on a Saturday. And I think that's really strong. We also have, in the grand opening here, we had other people come through that weren't younger people. They were at the other end of that, where they were saying, you know, we've been in Anthem in this case, our first buyer, for quite a few years, a big pie-shaped lot that I spend all this time doing yard maintenance on, and we want to enjoy our retirement years. So we're seeing a real wide range of groups come through that it appeals to them for different reasons. One of the things we're offering, one of the things I should say, in all our homes that are 3-story, I think it's really nice because you have this zoning effect, and let's face it, people look at a 3-story and say, oh, that's tall. And then you realize it's a 2-story with a basement pulled out of the ground. It's only 2 flights of stairs. But what it does is the same thing, right? There can be games going on downstairs. There can be a conversation going on the main floor, and people could be resting upstairs. So it really zones things nicely from an architect standpoint.
Yeah, it was good. You had mentioned it was use of space, really the whole community and the use of space within the homes. All of that is what drives that urban need because it is convenient. You have the outdoors and did you want to expand on any of that?
Sure. I think that because it is urban and tight, we've worked really hard on getting generous outdoor spaces. It's not thinking that people, because they're in an urban environment, want to be inside. They're still Coloradoans, still love great outdoors. So some of our houses have three floors of outdoor space,
That's okay. That's okay. No, that was great. That's perfect. We've touched on it a little bit. Each of you have said some things about what buyers are looking for, and I know that y'all have some opinions around that as well, but what are you seeing specifically that is driving the buyers here? What are they looking for? And Jeff, we've been talking a lot about 3-story, so you wanted to speak to why that's important and what buyers are looking for.
Well, one thing, a great question, but I'll answer a different one. I did want to touch on what Mitch said. We've been building 3-story homes for 100 years. We just happened to put the first floor underground. And one thing, if you look around this room, this is a fantastic example that you may not even realize it, but by having this floor above the garage, we have 4 sides of windows in this room. And it makes for just a fantastic living area. If this was a more traditional home, you probably have your garage tucked in over here, and now you've got this L shape and everything's broken up a lot more. By going to 3 stories and having your primary living on the 2nd floor, it makes it such a better space. I mean, this is just, kudos to Mitch and his team. It's a beautiful space right here. And as Mitch said also, really, once you're in your 2nd floor, your living experiences in your kitchen, your living room, and your bedrooms, it's no different than a traditional 2-story home. So I think he also had a great point about these separate activity areas where you've got sort of your fun games or the kids still down on the lower level. The adults can be on this level, and then the bedrooms upstairs. So I think there's some wonderful attributes to 3 stories over 2 stories that sometimes gets overlooked. And I think, back to your question, while people may not be specifically looking for 3 stories, I think once they get inside and they feel it, it really is noticeable, the differences. And then the outdoor spaces take a little bit different form than a traditional yard, whether it's patios or decks you have here. Our product has a rooftop deck. You get spectacular views you would never have on a ground floor level. I just think it's a repackaging of these different things that makes it new and exciting. And then on top of that, you don't have to mow a yard. So.
Yeah, and for those that want a gym at home, they get a free Stairmaster as part of it. Good. Yes, and that to the low maintenance, Mitch had mentioned that as well. You do. It's a lock and leave. He said it a couple of times. You get to enjoy your weekend. You don't have to maintain the space that you're in or pay the gigantic water bills for all of the grass that you don't have to mow. So it's good. And then Kyle had said it earlier as well that people really want to walk to have coffee. They want that convenience of the space and the lifestyle. And that's really what Baseline is working to bring for the homeowners. Back to Mitch. I really liked how you answered this question as well. The unique architectural features or sustainability initiative that attracts the buyers.
I think part of it is just developed by the property itself, right, by the lots. That's how I started the design of this series of homes, as I first looked at the lot conditions. Had them, as I mentioned, pulled forward to the street, so our outdoor space, we're living out front, and really wanted to capitalize on that with generous outdoor space. You
had mentioned Winston Churchill.
Oh, yeah. So my intention was to make these light, bright, and open. And what Nina was referencing was Sir Winston Churchill said, we shape our buildings and they in turn shape us. And I think they really can inspire lives. We're light, bright, open. Look, we're in a second floor house in a 3-story or 3,000 square foot house, second floor, and there's 40 of us in here. This is a very flexible space. We all have the same basic needs as far as shelter goes, but we all live differently. So we tried to build in some of those options. You can see a wine room over here. That could be game room, homework room. We have walls and barn doors that come. It could be an office. A lot of flexibility downstairs. Talking to people at the grand opening, everyone has a little bit different story, right? The first buyers that we had came through the door, said, our daughter just came home from college. We really want that bedroom and bathroom downstairs. Some people might want an office down there. I know I work out of my house. It'd be great. You can leave work and come home. So there's good zoning there. It can be the open rec area, and or the mother-in-law suite. We've had some talk about that as well.
We've talked a little bit about the types of buyers that this would cater to, or really who we're seeing move into Baseline. And we didn't talk about it yet, but I love the buyer that you have referenced in the past that moved as a downsize because they bought a 3-story. Do you want to say that and then say also what you think, where people are coming from or who's buying here?
Sure. I love the comment. What was it that our spaces shape us? Is that?
Yeah.
I'll just point out our houses are tall and skinny. So if you have people who want to be tall and skinny, it'll shape them. When we go into any community and we're designing homes and really trying to figure out our market, we think we're really smart. And so we sort of had an idea of who we thought our buyer profile was. And for the most part, I think we're reaching that. It tends to be younger, first-time move-up, but not exclusively. And our first buyer in the community actually was out of Anthem, and they were retired, and they were moving to a 2-story home, a 3-story, 2-story home, which was not what you'd expect for an empty nester couple. And what they said is they were moving to 2 bedrooms to exclude their children from coming home. That they were tired of everybody coming back to their big house, and this was their way to keep them out. So you never know what people are going to want. So, which was a great story, I thought. But what was
Wide variety is essentially what you were saying.
Wide variety, yeah. And I think Mitch has alluded to this, just trying to provide spaces that can serve a lot of different functions, whether it's more bedrooms, whether it's work at home spaces, flex spaces, workout rooms, just providing that flexibility within a home and within a plan to meet the various needs that are out there in the buyer community now.
Mitch, you had another comment too about what you're seeing as far as the types of buyers that are moving in?
Well, young and old, as I mentioned from the grand opening, we had a couple. They were just curious. They were driving by and said, "Oh, it's an open house," and they came in. They had two young daughters, and they're walking through, and they saw the vision of how they could live differently. They got excited about that. And as I mentioned, on the opposite end of the spectrum, the 65-year-old coming in saying, "We're slowing down. We don't want to do yard work all the time. We want to enjoy our weekends."
And all of you had something to say about where you're seeing them come from, where they're moving from to here.
Well, I would also just add that, I think what crosses the generations of the household is also when you can live, work, and play in the same area, when the commutes are shorter, you save time, right? And I think that appeals to everyone. In terms of where they're coming from, I think I'll let the builders speak more specifically about some examples there. But in general terms, you're looking at a lot of people who would have split commutes or interests between Boulder, Broomfield, and Denver. Right? It's very convenient. Like my wife works in Colorado Springs, I work in Denver. We live in Castle Rock. Okay? And I would say on an out-of-state migration, I'm curious to hear how much that has been so far here. But when you look at in-migration for the metro area, right, California is still easily number one. It's like a fifth of all in-migration, particularly Southern California. And it's noteworthy, number 3 for states is Arizona, which is really just Californians that moved to Arizona for a year, saw how hot the summer really is, and then decided to go back north, right? Big demographic figures just for this corridor. So, Baseline's always been, this is, just over the last 15, 20 years, this is a long time growing area, lots of households, and splitting that commute time back and forth from Broomfield to Boulder and over to Denver. But the recent projections on CDOT's Highway 7 expansion, right, are forecasting about 49,000 new households by 2050, and then 38,000 new jobs along the corridor by 2040, right? So that's on top of the growth that's already happened, like with the hospital. So Highway 7 is going to continue to evolve as this east-west corridor connecting everything, and when you think about that kind of level of economic growth, the demand for mixed types of housing is only going to improve. So, that really speaks to Broomfield's plan.
Anybody else want to speak to it?
Yeah, I would say and Tammy Cook, who's in back, who's our sales manager, would know better than me, but I would say what we're seeing typically is a northern buyer, northern meaning Thornton, Broomfield, Boulder. We do get some people from downtown Denver, and especially out of Boulder and Boulder County, because this really does become a more affordable option. You folks know better than I do. Price differences between Boulder and here. But it is providing an alternative to that in still close proximity to the Boulder area, Boulder employment corridors. And so we are seeing a little bit out of state, not a ton, and it's kind of a scattering from all over. But I would say primarily the northern metro market, in particular the northwestern metro market.
Yeah, I know we had our first buyers I mentioned from Anthem. I believe our second two buyers, I'm looking at Seth, you can nod if I'm saying this right or not, were from a more urban area. I'll point down that way. I won't pick out any communities, but where the crime had gotten really bad in their neighborhood, and they said, we got to get out of here. And so they were, is that right, Seth? Okay.
Is it safe?
I just wanted to piggyback on something that Tom mentioned relative to the growth of the corridor. You may not be aware, but I think CDOT had done an analysis of the traffic along Highway 7 and determined that it is actually feasible to do BRT, bus rapid transit. And so there are plans, and in our Center Street district, we have plans for a bus stop, and then also one in a mobility hub at I-25 and Highway 7. We have heard preliminarily from the city and from CDOT that they are going to start doing some type of BRT. I'm not sure about the R part because we don't have the managed lanes all the way on Highway 7. But that is indicative of the growth of the area that we're actually starting to look at public transportation going east and west, Boulder all the way to Brighton, and then at that mobility hub at I-25 and Highway 7, the intention is that to be one of the very few stops all the way from Fort Collins down to Denver Union Station.
Yeah, I would say I would jump that next slide. So one of the other pieces focus on, right, is price and value and how that ties with affordability to align it. And, before I jump into this, I think it's also important to remember Baseline is in its introduction stage. So, homes are actually at a bargain right now when you think about development, right? As the amenities come in, that's a typical level where prices start to go up because the premiums start to go up, the value starts to go up, you start to activate more and more of the community. So now here, looking at pricing, I switched to just Broomfield and as a whole. But when we talk about price, I think what you want to do is look at based on locations people are coming from, working at, or looking to afford, right? And so here, the quick look at the table is if it's in red, it's less affordable than Broomfield. And what we're looking at is deed transactions over the past year. So 2023's numbers. And let me catch myself up on my numbers. This is why I have to have things written down. So the price differential, follows the same historic patterns as you would expect. When you go to the west side, into Boulder, things are more expensive. And a lot of the people that are coming, like Jeff said, are coming from that area because this is like the next stop in terms of value and affordability. And it's a relative term, but it is, when you look at these numbers, between those three communities, Louisville, Lafayette, and Boulder, you're talking about a single-family detached price delta range between about 12 and 62% last year. When you look at the townhome column, so that's the second column up there, all you need to see is all that red. So pretty much in any direction other than maybe east across I-25, the townhomes are priced lower here in Broomfield. On the resale side, it's the relationship I think was about a 9 to 7%, something like that. But like that tells you a little bit more of the story of just the buying patterns as well that fits the narrative that Jeff was also describing.
Yeah, you had mentioned that you're seeing younger buyers because it is more affordable than other areas, and what they get for the value of what they're getting is a big deal. Okay, so we're gonna have our panelists give you a key takeaway, but I do just want to wrap up some of the things that really were the focus, is that Baseline is filling a need, filling the gap within inventory as well as exactly what the buyers are looking for. Baseline is providing that, especially with the lifestyle and amenities that are going to be coming in the community in the future, lifestyle that's here in the community amenities. They're great options for the buyers, and if you purchase earlier when it's newer in the community, the value is higher and your equity grows more. Those are some of the biggest key takeaways, and especially with that growth that they spoke to that's happening along this area. Now, to help you help your buyers, each panelist is going to give you a quick one piece of practical advice to successfully guide your clients in understanding the benefits of urban community and really finding a home in Baseline. Jeff, you want to go first?
Wow. I would probably just reiterate a lot of what's been said here today, that this is just a wonderful community. It is just in its infancy. As Kyle described, there's so much coming with the parks and open space, Center Street, and anybody who's been in this business for a while knows now is the time to get in on a master plan community as early as prices start to go up. So I think it's a wonderful buying opportunity. A little plug for Berkeley Homes and realtors. I know we're in a state of flux, let's call it, with real estate commissions. We do pay 2.8 and 3.0 of base price, so we would love to have you. We really welcome the brokerage community and would love to speak with you and your clients. So,
I think it's painting a picture of what they want their lifestyle to be, what they want their weekends to look like. If they're not spending all the time yard work, they could be inside writing a book, outside hiking, whatever they want to. It's just a lifestyle choice. Really think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful community as amenities. People are going to thrive, just flourish here. I think that that it'll very much increase in value. Every community I've seen in 31 years has done that, except my house went down in 2008. I don't know why. But I made 50% on that house 5 years later, so that was okay.
Just piggybacking on what Mitch said, I think it makes a ton of sense if you have the time, just drive through the community, watch the people living that lifestyle, walking their dogs with the kids, chat with some of the folks. Why did they move here? What do they like about the community? And then secondarily, I will say, and Pam recommended this, check out baselinecolorado.com. We frequently update our website with the latest and greatest on what's going on. Pam, I think you also said that there is a realtor landing page that is going to go live next month. So another reason to go check out, again, that's baselinecolorado.com.
So I took a little different approach since I'm a researcher, right? So I actually talked to a few folks who are looking and buying right now and out shopping, and combine that with just what I see in the market and my research as well. So on the new home development front, right, I think it's just important as brokers that you have a good understanding, like you're here today, getting the vision of what the community is going to be, because you have to help paint that picture. There's so many things online, so much information, and the buyers are on there using it, right? They are pulling all this stuff, but it's kind of like WebMD, right? We all look at it and we think we know exactly what ails us, right? And so I'm saying you guys are like the doctors of real estate, right? I think navigating through all of that to, weigh the trade-offs of new versus resale, the vision of a community, what it looks like today, what it's going to be, 10 years from now when their kids are how old, or where their life is. right? Knowing and seeing those concepts, I think, is really important. And then calming them down, right? Because when you look at what the mortgage rates are, the headlines that are out there these days, some of that matters for some people, and some of that doesn't matter at all for others. And I think that's what we've seen is, I mean, I am somebody who does this for a living. I bought a house in Stapleton Central Park in 2007. Thank you. I still own it. It's a rental property that's been profitable for the last 6-7 years now, and it is worth double. Right? It was when it was right to buy. And I had my background, but I also had other help as well to kind of convince me that this was the right thing, as long as I was going to stick around for a little bit. Right? So I think really teach, it's really, as a broker, have the heart of a teacher, right? You're the guiding force to help them see what they're going to buy.
Thank you very much for being here. We are around for questions as well, but please take your time and tour these beautiful homes. Thank you.